Hello and welcome to my presentation on why most retailers fail. My name is Brian Young. I'm the CEO and founder of Retail Rescue, and my personal motto is less talk, more action. I'm also known in the industry by the name of Mr. Retail, a name given to me by my peers and clients. They say that whatever I don't know about retail is not worth knowing. Um, and I'm considered an expert in the field, often write for magazines, etc. And our company, Retail Rescue, is well known for providing answers on a silver platter on how to run a successful retail business. Our point of difference is that we don't just ask questions like, have you tried this, have you tried that? We tell you step by step, if we need to, exactly how to be successful in retail. Okay, so if you want to know more about me, by all means go to my YouTube site and have a look at my bio, and you'll understand that I've been in the industry for 30 years now, 22 years of that on the front line and 10 of those in management roles. I do know exactly what I'm talking about and am considered an expert worldwide. So here we go, let's get on with the presentation. Alright, no matter where you are in the world, the figures might vary slightly, but most retailers do fail within 5 years, whether it be from percentages of 55% to 80% on some countries. The truth is, it's a very scary environment out there, especially when some of these big names are failing, so it can be concerning. But also, there are a lot of other retailers that are doing really, really well. In fact, they're succeeding to the point of where they're prospering. Now, if you want to know why it is that some are prospering when most others are actually failing, we're going to have a chat about today what things cause failure so you can avoid those things and hopefully become one of those that prospers. So I'm going to tell you the top 5 reasons that retail businesses fail. They don't include natural disasters, taxes, recessions, or online retailers. And I'm also going to tell you the one thing you can do to help avoid all 5 of these issues from happening to you. That's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, let's get straight into it. The top 5 reasons retailers fail. We're going to start with number 5, which is ineffective marketing strategies. That includes poor planning. Marketing people tend to, in a retail environment, they're small guys, usually we're talking about small to medium businesses here. We have a tendency to plan by the seat of our pants, if you like. We might plan for Christmas, we might plan for well-known events that happen throughout the year, but we don't necessarily plan for the whole 12 months in a long stream, which is what we need to be doing. And we might be choosing the wrong mediums. We tend to just say, let's have a crack at using TV, radio, whatever else, throw money at it, but not really tracking how well it performs to see whether or not it's worth throwing money at it again next year. Or we should be trying other mediums in social media, for example. And that's what I mean by staying traditional. They're old school of not using some of the new concepts that are out there. You tend to be missing out big time on some of the social media aspects that are available, and SEO. The other thing is poor customer base utilization. I'm talking about loyalty programs for the sake of loyalty programs. You tend to find people will start up a loyalty program, point scheme, etc., but they don't know how to drive that scheme in a way that builds rapport, that builds relationships, that encourages return custom, and encourages them to tell others to become into the store as well. And when they're in there, get them on a loyalty program. So when you are promoting to the loyalty program, you're doing it in a way that's non-obtrusive. I can teach you all this sort of stuff, how to do it in such a way, but we haven't got that much time to do that today. Number 4 is poor tracking of market trends. Now there's a couple of things I'm referring to here. KPIs, benchmarking I should say, of KPIs. You're looking at how well you're doing compared to others out there in the same industry, not just retail in general, but in your sector of retail. So if you're a jeweler, how are you comparing to other jewelers? And we're talking about things like your overheads. How are you competing or with others? How much are they spending on wages? How much are they spending on rent and other overheads? Compared to what you're spending, are you underspending? Are you overspending? And get an idea of where you need to put your attention. For example, if you're not spending enough on marketing, maybe you need to increase it. If you're spending too much on wages, maybe you need to look at your casuals versus full-timers ratio, that sort of thing. And of course, you're also talking about demographic research. What certain things happen best for your region? There's certain products that appeal to different age groups, different race, different genders, and you need to look at your demographic to see whether you apply to any of those needs. And of course, other trends such as fashion trends and things that are changing in the industry, are you monitoring it so you can keep up with it? Moving right along, number 3 is inefficient human resources. Some of that's to do with your inability to attract the right staff and then keep that right staff, let alone get the best out of them. Now, a lot of the people in retail are not necessarily suited to retail. Unfortunately, retail is sort of like just a job for a lot of people. They look at it as not a career, but just something to get involved in until something better comes along. You can have mothers who want a second job to support the family, fathers likewise. You might just find that you've got university students wanting to have a job while they're doing their degrees. That sort of thing is not treated as a career as much as it should be. And therefore, you're not necessarily getting people suited to the role. So you need to know how to attract the right people by the way you word your job advertisements, to appeal to the right type of personality that would actually be good at selling or working in a retail environment. You need to know how to set up the environment in a way that makes them comfortable and want to stay with your business and not move on. A lot of that's done with personality profiles. You may have heard of them. But the whole way of just telling them what they need to do and then expecting them to do it, it's my way or the highway, no longer works. So we'll talk about that another time, but that is the number 3 problem. Let's move straight into the number 2 reason why retailers fail, and that of course is cash flow. Insufficient funds management and the wrong buying versus selling strategies. Cash flow is one of the biggest issues out there, and a lot of it's due to your own inability to plan ahead, to have the funds available for the things you need money to be there for. It's as simple as looking back at what you've done in the past, what your previous years, what months are your busiest months, which are your slowest, therefore they're most likely to be the same again this year, and therefore you should be able to use that data to plan to have money available. So if you've got a glut month coming up with lots of money coming in, when that money comes in, rather than just go and spend it on trying something new, for example, or doing a little upgrade in the store, you know by having looked back that you're about to come across a very poor period of income, and so you need to put that money in a little slush fund ready for that poor period. Or it might be a period where you need to be buying up big, ready for Christmas rush or something else that might be an event that's coming up that you need to have extra stock for, or you need to be looking at that. There's a lot to it, and I can take you through it, but cash flow is one of the biggest reasons. And the number 1 reason why retailers fail is the owners themselves. Okay, we commonly accept that to be in marketing you need to have a degree. To be in human resources you need to have a degree. Basically, owners are trying to do all of these things. They are trying to become a buyer for their business. They're trying to manage their staff. With human resources, there's so many regulations they've got to keep up with, but overall they are trying to do everything and they're taking on too much. And the main reason they take on too much is quite simple, because they don't have the highly qualified, degree qualified staff working for them that big businesses do. They can't afford to hire those types. So therefore they don't trust the non-qualified people in their business to do the things that are very important. And thus, when you say, oh, just delegate, it doesn't work unless you have somebody that you are confident you can delegate to and get a good job done. So unfortunately, they tend to take on everything themselves. Well, they might also be listening to what the last owner taught them, or looking around seeing what other people have been doing in the industry as a guide of how they should be handling human resources and sales training and all that sort of thing. Or even analysing their own data. They don't know how to get down and dirty and determine what the data is trying to say to them. You know, whether or not you need to be specialising in a certain niche, whether or not certain departments perform better than others, what your sweet spot price points are. All these different things that make up your business are all taken on by the owners, and yet the owners themselves are not qualified. You know, they've come across from goodness knows what industries. I've got accountants who've taken up retail stores, fruit picker. You know, there's been so many different types that take up retail, and they're not really experienced at it at all. And yet, because they aren't confident that others are either, they'd rather take the onus on themselves. Well, the solution there is to get yourself trained and get your staff trained. But if you can't afford to get them trained to a level that you would consider degree qualified, then try outsourcing to those that are qualified. And the best things to outsource are the things that you don't need to have done day in, day out in your business. So for example's sake, if you only have a few human resource issues coming up where you have to manage your staff, maybe written warnings and trying to manage someone out and all this sort of thing going on, but it doesn't happen all the time, why don't you just outsource that issue as it arises to a company like mine that can deal with it for you? Maybe sales training is something you only do 2 or 3 times a year, maybe once or twice. I've known people only do it once a year, and some don't do it at all. Commission it out, get someone to do it for you. And the good thing about outsourcing, no matter what part of the business, you need somebody very highly qualified to deal with the issue, but you don't need a full-time employee that's going to cost you a lot in wages, or their entitlements, or their annual leaves. And if you don't want to have that, it's so much cheaper to outsource it. If you can imagine you just hired a casual and you put them on the sales floor, and that casual was able to bring in enough income to save your business all by themselves, in fact start growing your business, you'd be going, wow, this is the best casual I've ever employed. How did this happen? That's not likely to happen. But if you outsource, then you're not going to pay any more than what you probably would for a casual, because you're not using them all the time, and you don't have the overheads of annual leave and things like that, or any entitlements you have to meet. You basically just get an invoice thrown your way that you pay. Structure your business in a way that people who are good at doing things are the ones that do the things. If somebody else is better at doing something than you, then let them do it. Give them get some training for them if you have to, if it's a full-time role. But you step aside and do the things that you're good at. Okay? But overall, the one thing that you can do, here it is, to avoid all these issues happening to you, is preparation. Abraham Lincoln once said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. He was right on the money. You need to plan everything and do it regularly. And when I'm talking about that, I'm referring to your business plan is not something you do once. It's something you do every year, You look at it and you set it up as a strategy. What I need to do to get somewhere, and how am I going to go about it? Set yourself timelines of when these things need to be done by, so you actually do get your business plan working for you. Your marketing, you need to plan well ahead, 12 months in advance, but include in there things like your social media as well as your traditional mixed in together. And how are you going to harvest, whether you're going to have closed door nights, whether you're going to have loyalty programs that are segmented. You've got to plan ahead for all these things so that you don't not do them. Same as stock control. You need to have the money, funds to be available when you need it. The last thing you want is to be missing out on getting your fast sellers in stock, avoiding getting stock in because you're having a tough month and you don't want to be spending, when those very same things, that if they were in, would be paying the wages for you. You've got to make sure that you have a plan in place for clearing old stock before it becomes old, how to deal with it as it starts to get old, as it starts to age, before it gets to the level where you have to start heavily discounting or going through the process of clearing it. Which, by the way, you need to have a process in place for the clearance as well, so that it doesn't get to a level where it's a huge headache when it does get too old for you. You need to be looking ahead at when your busiest periods are, and even what days of the week are most likely to be busy, so you have the right levels of staff on for all those periods. When you got Christmas casuals on and then you don't need them for the rest of the year, you need to be planning ahead, and you need to be planning how to deal with the performance of these staff and getting the most out of them, when you're going to have your sales training, what days you have your staff training and your meetings, etc. All of this needs to be planned ahead. And of course, your cash flow. If you're looking back, you'll be able to plan ahead. You need to make sure the funds are there for when you need them to do the marketing, when you need to have the sales training prior to the event so that they're all pumped and ready to go, when you need to be able to buy the stock for that particular occasion. And an annual general meeting needs to be something that you do not allow to go in the wrong direction. Annual general meetings, generally what seems to happen is they might get together and all talk about how well they did last year, what their plans are to do well this year, but it's more of a telling scenario than a listening scenario, when the real fact is you need to be using your general meeting as a time to prepare for the next year. So listen to your managers, listen to your employees, all have your little input into ways to improve the business, how to deal with all of these things. Look at your KPIs and set genuine KPIs based on genuine figures of the past. You need to make sure that your annual general meeting counts. A lot of them I've been to, they just have a lot of fun. And they're maybe a little bit of training there, but there's very little focus on working together to prepare for the future. All right, so we've covered an awful lot here. One of the things I was talking about earlier is using your resources wisely by outsourcing. Okay, just a little bit more on that issue. You need to remove emotions from the equation. A lot of retailers tend to go by gut feel and pride. We've done it this way for many, many years. It's worked for us in the past, so I'm reluctant to change. Whereas if they were looking at the data properly, and the data was telling you, you know what, there's a swing out there, trends are changing, people are now looking towards something different to what you were offering in the past. Maybe even as something as subtle as a different price point to what you were offering in the past. The whole planet changes around you. You might have a university open up around the corner, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of young people in the area. You might have a old people's home open up, retirement village, and you've got a lot of older generation move into the area. New shopping centre opens up, more higher standard of living occurs, people getting more jobs, and then suddenly just the price point alone of what you're offering no longer suits the people in your demographic. So you need to be constantly looking at your data to see what price points are selling in every department you have. You've got to get your emotions out of it and look at what and move with the trends by analyzing your data properly. If you don't have the expertise in your business to do that, to analyze the reports, it's cheaper to get experts involved than to ignore the situation. You might also let your own personal bias get in the way of changing. I've been doing this for 30 years and I don't want to change. Well, unfortunately, in the last 30 years, things have changed a lot. So either you change with it, or you'll just keep on doing the same as you've always done, or start going backwards. So get an expert involved, like myself, like my management consultants that work for me, and actually get them to analyze the data for you. You don't have to have them in your pocket paying huge dollars for them every day in, day out, but you can just send them your data, or even ask them to log into your computer and go through it with you and give you some feedback and some insights. By outsourcing, you lower your costs and get higher expertise because you're only paying that invoice I told you about. You're only paying for them as you need people. You're not constantly coughing out money for a full-time employee that doesn't have the expertise of an outsourced person anyway. By seeking help, you are showing strength. It is not a weakness. So by calling on a retail expert, you are doing nothing more than making use of the resources available to you. It's not a weakness. I have a lot of mentor clients on my books, where once a month I give them a call and I sit down with them for an hour. I log into their computer at the same time, we run reports together, and we analyze the business together, and we set down goals for the next month, action plans of what they need to be doing for that specific month to be doing the most benefit for their business. That's not a weakness, that's a strength. All of my clients are doing far better on their bottom line than they were before they ever called me. All right, so now that you know what to do, you can find out how to do it. And there's one way you could just join our mailing list if you want. You could follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, of course, or our blog. Eventually you'll get all the answers you wanted handed to you on a silver platter. But that's a slow process. It might be free, but it's slow. You'll eventually figure everything out, but a lot of things are more urgent than that. You could also join our LinkedIn or Google Plus group, and you could put forward questions on the spot and ask for answers. Other retailers will be involved and they'll have their say, or of course I'll pop in and look occasionally and see if there's something I can give you answers on. So there's another option. You could always attend my webinars or seminars, pick the eyes out of what you really need to know about, social media training, for example, sales training, whatever it is you need to know about, and only attend the 1 day or half day seminars that relate to that. Cost involved on those ones, of course, because it's full-on content. Or you could learn everything step by step in one of my 2-day Secrets to Retail Success conferences. I'm planning on doing virtual conferences as well, where if you're in another country and you can't get to the main conference, the last one was in Johannesburg, I've got another one in Kuala Lumpur very soon, but if you can't attend these conferences physically, then let me know and we'll set up a virtual conference for you. Or you could join my mentoring program. And with the mentoring program, like I said, I dial in and I ring you once a month, but we focus on what needs to occur to have the biggest amount of impact in your business in the least amount of time. Okay, so for that particular month that we're in, if we need to be doing something for the month that's coming up, we address that then and there. Okay, so we're planning for what's going to have the biggest impact right in the very next month, rather than just giving you training on everything and we can think of. It's stuff that's relevant to running your business in the current time frame. That's the number one thing I would recommend you do. All right, so thank you for listening. I hope I've given you some sort of content here. I do have a tendency to just give content, and a lot less of waffling. That's less talk, more action. That's the way I am. Why not visit my website on retailrescue.com? If you're in Australia, .com.au will take you through to the same site, because we obviously operate worldwide. And feel free to click on the Contact Us button if you want to actually ask me to contact you. First contact's always made by myself, right? So that you know you're dealing with the number one guy in the company, if you like to put it that way. And I can then analyze the status of your business. The ones that I feel are in the biggest need are the ones that I will personally help, and those that I only need small assistance on one or two things, I'll pass them on to an expert that works for me. So retailrescue.com, click on Contact Us and either fill in the form or give us an email or a call. Thank you for your time.